A great war shall transpire. Darkness will prevail, and light expire. This world is full of light. It's a world comprised of many smaller worlds, all connected. Stretching as far as the eye can see. One great light protects us all. They're one light, one fate. I take it you're talking about Kingdom Hearts.
Yep. In ancient times, people believed that light was a gift from an unseen land. By the name of Kingdom Hearts. But Kingdom Hearts was safeguarded by its counterpart, the Keyblade. Warriors vied for that precious light, beginning the Keyblade War. All of this was decided.
You really think you can change the future?
All of this was decided.
The truth is what you see with your eyes, not what you hear. Sounds like your trip around the world opened your eyes, but you got a little bit more than you anticipated. A lot of darkness. So you're saying they'll feel the need to justify their actions to maintain a sense of self. You can't let that slip. You can't let that slide. I suppose letting false light dictate the future might be a pretty lousy move. So, you think change? You have that power. What do you want for the world? You believe the world needs you. Sounds like you already know where you're headed. If you truly possess great power, the darkness can't control you.
All of this was decided.
You really think you can change the future?
All of this was decided.
The truth is what you see with your eyes, not what you hear.
All of this was decided.
Why not just sit back and watch it play out?
All of this was decided.
May your heart be your guiding key. Who are you really? Some kind of fortune teller? Well, I could lie, tell you that's what I am, when I'm actually a brilliant artist, even a scholar. Tell you that I dream of world peace, when I'm actually planning for its destruction. The truth is what you see with your eyes, not what you hear.
All of this was decided.
You really think you can change the future?
All of this was decided.
The truth is what you see with your eyes, not what you hear.
All of this was decided.
Why not just sit back and watch it play out?
All of this was decided.
May your heart be your guiding key. May your heart be your guiding key.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Landy Lodge, where today we have a very, very, very cool episode for you all. I know we got a little bit of a lag on the camera. Don't worry, I'm wiring myself in through Discord. It'll clear up soon. But anyway, before we roll into today's episode and today's guest, let's give a lot of love to the Sages of the Lodge, the beautiful names you see on your screen right here. They're YouTube channel members, donate directly, or are long-time Twitch subscribers. But with that said, without further ado, allow me to introduce today's guest for today's episode. Coming back into the Lodge today is Empowered Muse. Em, how's it going? Thanks for hopping back in here. And again, I'm excited to talk a little bit of Ventus today.
Yeah, what's up, Landy? It's good to be back in the lodge. Thank you for having me. And yeah, I'm so glad you were like excited to explore this idea of Ventus with me.
Yeah, you know, I've done an episode or two on Ventus before. A lot, you know, one of them was pretty much just recapping his whole journey. But one common thread is that, you know, everybody agrees that the future's bright for this character. They're obviously going to be very, very important, not only to the future of Kingdom Hearts, but tying Kingdom Hearts past in Union Cross to the future. And, you know, there are some anomalies about this character I've come to realize as of late that I'm excited to bounce off of you. But really what spurred this episode is you recently put out a video about Ventus. Do you maybe want to just quickly summarize what that video was about, some of your observations, and then we can kind of spiral it off from there?
Yeah, so I was just kind of thinking about it, and you know, a lot of people tend to talk about what they're excited for, looking forward in the Lost Master arc. So they kind of touched on Sora, obviously, Riku, Kairi training with Aqua, the Lost Masters with the Master of Masters and the Foretellers. But you know, I think that not necessarily that people forgot about Ventus, but just that sometimes he's not touched on as much as the other main protagonists. So that's kind of what sparked me to write about this theory. So basically, it was just very much pointing out that Ventus will be a very important character going forward in the Lost Master arc. And some of the key points was that one, that whole scene in Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind where Sora is kind of venturing through Vin's heart, and darkness is speaking to him, and that I'm sure that raised a lot of questions at the time when a lot of us were playing it in real time of like, wait, why is darkness still in there? I thought we already got extracted darkness in the form of Vanitas, and since Vanitas has been extracted, Vin should be back to pure light. There shouldn't technically be darkness within him. So that was kind of the initial thing that sparked it, but also just some observations when thinking through, you know, in the short time that Vin's been awake, thinking through, you know, some highlights that just like raised a lot of questions. So obviously there's a Union Cross connection because he was a Union leader, one of the Union leaders. And so there's that question of like, okay, will he run into Strelitzia again at some point? But beyond that, is there a chance that Vin could be part of a new trio? Since now both Laurium and Arena have been recompleted back to their original selves, will they seek out Vin to find clues about Strelitzia? And then one of the other points that I think that sometimes it's glossed over is that of the Union leaders that we've seen come back by the time of Kingdom Hearts 3 or Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind, somehow they've gotten their memories back. We kind of saw this when Laurium was being recompleted, that he was talking about his memories returning as he was fading from Marluxia and fading and going back to Laurium. But with Ventus, he still just doesn't remember anything. Like maybe he remembers when Master Xehanort extracted Vanitas from him, but outside of that, like anything before that, he doesn't remember. So that was a point that kind of stuck out to me of like he still doesn't have his Union Cross memories back for whatever reason. So I think that's going to be a really important plot point of like, why doesn't he have his memory back, or maybe how can he regain it? Is it that he had to get his Chirithy back? Was that the medium that he had to get in order to be his full complete self, to get his Union Cross memories back? So but that was just basically the summary of the theory video I put out about Ventus and why I think that he'll be a lot more important than people might take at first glance. But I think by now, I think we've all like thought about it. And it's like, no, Vin's gonna be like super important going forward.
Yeah, so I there's a few things you went over there that I definitely want to touch on. I definitely want to come back to him being a pure light, because I think that's an anomaly about this character that doesn't get discussed enough. But maybe something a little bit more playful was you brought up this idea of him joining a new trio, kind of graduating class birth by sleep and re-enlisting into class Union Cross. So do you think there is a solid chance that maybe he ends up linking up with Elrena and Laurium and they all try to get to Quadratum together? You know, because they all, the common thread between the three of them is Strelitzia, right? Like all
Right.
three of them have ties back to Strelitzia. That can't be ignored, right? In the sense that Terra and Aqua, they have nothing to do with Strelitzia. I don't know how you'd write them in to having to do with Strelitzia. So I think your observation that Ventus might branch off from Terra and Aqua, it almost seems like, maybe just for a moment to speak about the Birth by Sleep trio at large, that it's possible that while they'll always be a trio, narratively speaking, the three of them might be going their separate ways, in the sense that Aqua is going to train Kairi, Ventus, like you said, obviously as a future plot thread with Strelitzia, Elrena, and Laurium coming up. Terra, thank God Treehouse isn't here. We don't, it's harder for me to pinpoint where he might be headed, but, maybe I'm curious to pick your brain a little bit more about that, kind of the idea of him getting shuffled around here. How do you really see that playing out?
Honestly, I can see Laurium and Arena kind of waking up, back to their original selves, and Laurium being like, okay, we had a slight detour, so let's get back to tracking down my sister. And because both of them have gotten their memories back, I'm assuming Arena's gotten her memories back as well, but because they got their memories back, their first clue might be, hey, didn't we encounter, or didn't we see Vin in the Keyblade graveyard when we were in the organization? Why don't we try to track him down and see if he can help us? So that's kind of how I see in my head them kind of taking that initiative to go seek out Vin. Now, whether or not that will be a whole subplot in itself, and it'll take a game or a game and a half for them to finally come across Vin, I'm not sure, but I am kind of curious. I kind of see them eventually, their journey will lead them to the land of departure. Where they'll run into Vin and meet up with him and kind of explain, hey, so do you remember us at all? And and Ventus being maybe taken aback because he's like, we beat you guys. What are you doing here? So I definitely see that conversation happening. Now it might, Vin's Chirithy might be there to be a mediator and aid in that conversation a bit to kind of try to help jog his memories. But again, is that as much as it makes sense to my head logically that they will seek out Vin and meet up with him, I am still trying to work out the memory part because his memory is lost. So unless his Chirithy is what brought it back, I'm very curious to see just how they'll try to get Vin to remember who their real selves are.
Well, I actually think the Chirithy will definitely be a catalyst for that, but I actually think it's a great way to get Naminé involved again, especially because you can now see a narrative overlap between the way she helped Roxas with his memories, and now she's going to kind of do the same thing for Ventus in a way. So I'm curious. That's kind of how I see that one playing out. I agree with you, obviously, Chirithy be involved, but let me ask you, at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3, where he sees his Chirithy, do you think there's any memory there, or do you think there's a feeling where he just has a feeling that he remembers this character? Because we get right into Remind and the Limit Cut, and obviously all that time passed, but with that time passing, it doesn't seem like Ventus is any different. So he recognizes Chirithy, but they went into the realm of darkness looking for Sora in the Limit Cut. It wasn't like he was like, I have all these memories, we have to figure out who all these people are, you know what I mean? So I'm wondering, is the Chirithy kind of playing that close to the chest,
Yeah, so I think that, I don't know, so there's a part of me that thinks that, Vin just had this feeling that, this Chirithy was somebody familiar, that he wanted to, be friends with it, and he wanted to take him in. There's another part of me that is I don't think there was anything familiar at all. I think Vin was just being really nice and was like, oh, how cute, a Chirithy. Let me take care of you. So I'm kind of battling between those. I think it would be a great point and great for the story if there was that familiar feeling that would basically get us all in our feels, and it's look, our friendship transcended this much time, this amount of time. But I am leaning towards more so the feeling, but I am kind of reserving of could have just seen it and been I want to take care of you now.
Well, I mean, it would definitely be within his nature to see something like that Chirithy and immediate, like Ventus and Sora are sort of similar in that way. They kind of always
Yeah.
best foot forward, always, willing to be somebody's friend. So I could see it playing out like that. What I definitely wanted to talk to you about when it comes to Ventus, by the way, shout out to Mo Chocolate dropping a $2 super chat on us, says wishing both you sexy, awesome homies the best day. Well, thank you, Mo. We are wishing the same for you, buddy. Thank you for that. So the thing about Ventus, this pure light, right? This is something that's kind of an anomaly in Kingdom Hearts. And chat, somebody please correct me if I'm wrong. The only real like pure lights I can think of are Kairi and Ventus. Nobody in the Days trio is a pure light. Among the dandelions, other than Ventus, there's no pure light. Not Scold, not Ephemer, not... So that has to go somewhere. And it makes you wonder if there's some deeper connection between... how would I say? Some sort of deeper connection between both Ventus and Kairi. Because let's also remember in Kingdom Hearts 2... Roxas was kind of the catalyst that allowed Kairi to remember Sora, and that observation is actually what kind of drove Ansem the Wise crazy, because it made him throw his research away. It made him question everything he thought he knew about the heart, seeing Roxas and Kairi collide and having it catalyze Kairi's memories of Sora. Again, it made Ansem the Wise kind of spiral out of control. So I wonder if the Ventus of it all had something to do with that. Where do you think this him being a pure light, where does that lead?
I think as far as, going forward in the Lost Master arc, I do think that, we already know that Vin's a pure light. What I'm curious about is whether the Master of Masters is also going to notice that at some point, since he kind of sees everything, and maybe because right now it seems like Luxu is iffy back and forth, might be a traitor, and Ava is like nowhere to be found. So that's one and a half to two of his foretellers kind of like out of the way for his like master plan of locking these pure darknesses within their hearts. So because there is for some odd reason there's still some presence of darkness within Ventus, I wonder if the Master saw him as like a backup plan because he's such a pure light. I saw him as a backup plan to lock in an extra darkness per se within Vin, and maybe he's like a plan B to get rid of these pure darknesses. Even though Vin took it upon himself to lock a darkness within his heart in Union Cross, there's this question of like, okay, so when Vanitas was extracted from Ventus, and supposedly Vin was pure light again, but that doesn't seem to be the case with what we learned in Remind. But with Vanitas extracted, does that mean that Vanitas was like a random darkness, just like kind of chilling and hiding out? Was Vanitas the actual darkness that Vin took it upon himself to lock in? And does the darkness that still reside in Vin's heart, is that a darkness that was like left over from Vanitas, or is that just another pure darkness that maybe was locked in, and maybe that was why Vin was the one that was taken over and ended up murking Strelitzia and Union Cross, but maybe that darkness was within him before that whole battle happened with the other Union leaders in that laboratory room. So that's kind of what I see. And I am interested though to see, because there is kind of a floating theory out there that maybe Kairi and Ventus being pure light, maybe that's why at one point Sora was so gung-ho to like help and protect Kairi. It wasn't fully Sora speaking, it was more so Vin reaching out for another pure light.
Yeah, and I think the idea that the Master of Masters would be observing this closely, I think the most striking thing would be that the darkness reacted to Ventus much differently than it reacted to anything or anyone else. Like, I don't know how you could be the master of masters, look at the fallout of that collision with Ven's heart, and not go, oh, what is this? Because Vanitas, and this is something Treehouse always brings up, in the whole Dark Road narrative, that little segment with Vanitas was very telling, like very, very telling. And it made me wonder if maybe Ventus is a working template for what the master wants to do with the foretellers. Like, imagine a Vanitas version of Ava, a Vanitas version of Ased, a Vanitas version of everybody, where the darkness goes in, and maybe there's some catalyst like Sora to give that darkness shape, but through a pure light like Ventus, someone or something like Vanitas can be created. Because the master wants to give darkness form, and Vanitas is the best example we have of that so far.
Yeah, so I definitely agree. I think that, throughout the Kingdom Hearts story, I think the Master of Masters is kind of in his own way testing these experiments, like pretty much live, to see just what is going on and how it's working. Now, whether or not Ansem the Wise realizes this, he's kind of playing as like a catalyst because he's been doing his own experiments of the heart. But I don't think that's with his knowledge. I don't think right now that he knows about the Master of Masters. So, but he has like played his part in being a catalyst to push further the Master of Masters' own like experiments and how to get rid of these darknesses. So, but I definitely agree that this is like a testing. Vin might be a testing ground for the Master of Masters in order to see whether or not this can play out, if darkness can truly be defeated once it is locked within somebody and then takes its own independent form once it's extracted.
Yeah, and again, when I think about what the master is aiming to accomplish, I mean, again, like you're saying, it's like a working test. Like, it was almost like a prototype, a test drive. And, there's a lot of overlap between what Xehanort and the master are doing. So the fact Xehanort was involved also kind of adds credence to that idea. I guess a bit more forward, as far as Kingdom Hearts 4 is concerned, do you see Ventus having a big role in that game? Or do you think they're going to keep him on ice for maybe a future release after that?
I think that if Ventus plays any role in Kingdom Hearts 4, it's just going to be that initial meeting between him, Glorium, and Elrena, and with his Chirithy and Toe as well. So I think that would be that major subplot for Ventus in Kingdom Hearts 4. But I think his role going forward in the Lost Master arc, I think won't be revealed until like a later game, maybe after, if there is a Verum Rex like title, after, we get Kingdom Hearts 4, then we get maybe Yuzora side with some form of a Verum Rex game, and then we come back. And I think that's when we come back is when we'll see more of Vin's role in the Lost Master arc.
So here's something I've seen discussed a little bit more lately about Ventus is some people really wonder where he came from, in the sense that, maybe he's not from Daybreak Town, and the way he's not from the Land of Departure, because again, this is a character that is an anomaly. And, chat, feel free to shout this out, because maybe I misspoke earlier. I called Kairi a pure light. I believe she is, but I might be conflating Princess of Heart with pure light. I'm not sure it was ever outright deliberately said Kairi's a pure light. I don't know. Do you recall any sort of deliberate voice line or scene saying she's a pure light?
What I remember, and it might be like in Jimny's journal or something, is that at one point they defined the Princesses of Heart as beings of pure light.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That would make sense. Okay. That's interesting, too, because then, you know what? Like, if the master needs a backup plan, because that could be what the Princesses of Heart are this time around, is the master could just be using them as backup. Like, if these pure lights don't work, I've got these pure lights, and that could give us a reason to go to these Disney worlds all over again. In a lot of ways, it actually would feel like a callback to Kingdom Hearts 1.
Yeah, and I'm actually kind of curious because, of course, with the Masters and the Gazing Eye, I'm sure at some point he saw the Princesses of Heart being used for a different purpose, but to try to open the door to darkness to release Kingdom Hearts that way. So I'm wondering if if the Master saw that and was like, okay, while that was used for the purposes of bringing Kingdom Hearts, maybe they can be used in another form. And so I was kind of wondering why they went back to the Princesses of Heart again in Kingdom Hearts 3 when that didn't seem to be the main thing to focus on, but they kept alluding to it. So I wonder if that's also like a kind of a little point that was planted there for us, and then it's a setup for later that yeah, we didn't use the Princesses of Heart in Kingdom Hearts 3, but they're still here, so they're going to be used, maybe obviously not by Master Xehanort, but maybe by the Master of Masters this time around.
Yeah, and because that's a good point, that in the sense they gave a reason for the Princess of Heart in Kingdom Hearts 3, but it didn't go anywhere. So I would hope that they have something in mind for them for the future, and maybe this whole pure light thing is something that can they can orbit it around. But again, I can't help but think, because that would make Ventus the only princess, not the only princess, that would make Ventus the only pure light that isn't like a princess. You know what I'm saying? Which is funny because they have the like Sleeping Beauty allegory in Birth by Sleep, that whole idea with him. But that kind of makes him stand out a little bit too, and it makes you wonder: is he? Again, okay, here's a question. Do you think it's possible he might be from the Master of Masters time? Maybe not even the form of Ventus, but just his origin or the origin of his pure light? Because maybe pure lights can move through hearts the way darknesses can.
Yeah, that's really interesting because, the Master of Masters, like, supposedly had lost everything he loved when he was young because of this war between lights and darkness. But when the lights and darkness battled when he was a young boy, they kind of divided themselves. They ended up splitting themselves into these pure lights and pure darknesses. So maybe Ven's essence could be a pure light that has like traveled through time. It might also explain why he still hasn't like gotten his memory back, or there's some anomaly going on with his memory as opposed to the other Union leaders.
Yeah, it almost makes you wonder if his memories have been like actually locked away in a way others haven't. Like, it may not be as simple as how Sora needed his memory restored, but that could actually be interesting. Do you think we can get something where Ventus goes to sleep for like 7 days and Naminé restores him? Like, I'm actually picturing it now. Maybe they take him to like Castle Oblivion and put him in the same pod. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the memories can't be understated. Like, that is a very important, that's a very important part of his arc moving forward. So I feel like it has to be more than just a subplot alongside Kingdom Hearts 4. Like, there has to be some way this is going to tie into what the Master of Masters is planning. I'm trying to think back to the Union Cross era to see if maybe there were any hints there. Because, actually, now that I think about it, going back to you proposing that new trio, I believe him, Elrena, and Lauriam all kind of went into the pods together.
Yeah, so in that scene, I remember it clearly because like that's one of the scenes I use a lot. But that scene where Brain is basically saying goodbye to them. Ven is knocked out, but Lauriam and Arena have like taken them basically under their wings, and they're like basically we're gonna watch over them. And we're gonna continue to find out what's going on, what's happened to Strelixia's data. If we can find her body in some way, like something. So they did kind of set off in that trio, but of course they landed kind of at different points, with Lauriam landing in the woodland area of the Snow White world, and Arena landing in outside Maleficent's
Then
castle.
face down or face in the dirt.
Yes.
Like, I'd be
and
a
then,
bitch too. I'll tell you right now.
Yes.
If that's where your memories start, Jesus.
Yes. But yeah, and Vin just like is by himself in the Keyblade graveyard. But it's like somewhere in the future, not quite where Lorium and Arena were, but somewhere in the future, and Xehanort's who we're assuming to be Xehanort is approaching them. So because they landed separately, like I am kind of thinking it's like part of Vin's story is them coming back together. And maybe them helping him again.
That's such a good point, is that really is part of his character arc now, is the three of them coming back together after being dispersed out into the world. Huh. Yeah, now I almost see it as inevitable now that you bring it up like that. I actually now think the reunion of those three is inevitable. Like, it's happening. Do you think Ventus will have to fight Lorium?
So that's what I'm kind of thinking is gonna happen. Just because like Vin only saw, or his memories are still like not with him from the Union Cross days. So Vin only knows Lorium through his short time that he saw him as Marluxia. So I'm thinking that there might be a little bit of like, oh snap, I gotta fight you again type of vibe, and he might actually try to initiate it. But because I will say, like in Union Cross, it seems that Lorium did make peace with the fact of like it wasn't totally Vin's fault. It was the darkness that did it. So I don't think he no longer holds that against Vin. But I think if they do fight, it's gonna more so be like I don't know who you are. Like, why are you here?
I don't even know who you are.
Yes.
So a couple of things. On one end, what you just spurred my mind on, if we remember in the Keyblade graveyard, after the light of the past comes, Ventus actually knows what he's looking at. He right away goes, the light of the past. So it's like something got those memories spinning. Like, he didn't just say, like, nobody tipped him off. There was no Eraicus. He didn't get to hear the chess match where Eraicus goes, some light comes from the past. He looked at those Keyblades and upon his own conclusion went, the light of the past. So it seems like when he sees something, it wakes up that sort of individual memory. So when he saw the Chirithy, it's possible that like only the memory of the Chirithy woke up. And it's also possible that he's playing this pretty close to the chest and he's not saying anything. And he's only letting out as much as he needs to. But at the same time,
that's a good point.
I wonder, is he going to be the one to explain who the Master of Masters is? Because right now, nobody among the Guardians has any context of who the Master is, what he's up to, where he's from. I feel like it's almost going to be incumbent upon Ventus to catch the rest of the cast up to speed.
I think that if there's a way that Vin continues to get these pieces of his memory back, that he will be the vehicle to explain to the rest of the Guardians, the new Guardians now, who the Master of Masters is. I think also I'm trying to see if I can remember my point. It'll come back. But
if at any point I'm talking and you remember, just shut me up, okay?
But yeah, so if we're doing this with Vin getting his memory back little by little, with these reminders like, with the Keyblades in the light of the past and his Chirithy, maybe seeing Lorium and Arena, hopefully not in black coats, but in some other form of dress, will maybe continue to unlock his memories. That was my point.
Got it.
But I am also kind of curious because, when we saw this in Birth by Sleep, it seemed to be like an automatic explanation of like, oh, it's because Venus was extracted from him. That was a super traumatizing thing that happened to him. But whenever Terra and Aqua were trying to approach him about like, hey, who are you? Where'd you come from? It seemed like his brain literally broke. So I am kind of curious of like, at what point, like, is he still gonna suffer that type of thing, but with trying to unlock his Union Cross memories? Maybe that's why they've been locked away for so long, because like there's something going on that might like make his brain kind of break and like get this massive it almost looks like a massive migraine, but just like this massive
strife,
yeah.
Well, I think it would be the murder of Strelitzia, right? If he remembers that,
Yeah.
that'll probably break him.
Right.
Damn, a broken Ventus. That won't be good. Oh, boy. And then... See, now I had a thought and I just lost it. So, if you have anything to say, feel free to let it roll. But Andy123 says, wouldn't be surprised if Yen Sid knows a little bit more about the Master of Masters, since he knows that the Masters travel to Quadratum. Yeah, Yen Sid knows the lore. He's caught up on the lore. I guess he could be the one to break that news to everybody. And maybe as Yen Sid is explaining it, Ventus's memories kind of start to pour in. Maybe something like that goes on.
So I think that's an interesting point, because I am very curious if Yen Sid is the one to tell everyone and let everybody know who the Master of Masters is and what's going on. How will he tell the lore in the story? Because if you remember in Dark Road, when Xehanort was recalling the story to Vanitas in that conversation, it was very much like, oh, the Master and the Foretellers' devices plan to lock the darknesses within their hearts, and like, they disappear. Where in reality, the Master devised the plan. The other foretellers, with the exception of Luciu, didn't know at all. So they were just manipulated to like carry out his plan. And he just went ahead and locked the darknesses within their hearts and didn't tell them anything about it. So I say all that because I'm curious if, with Master Yen Sid might just know the lore that might have some inaccuracies to it, especially with the Union Cross leaders as well. So I'm curious to see if that is a moment where Ven will pipe up and be like, no, that's not what happened. This is what actually happened.
That would be cool if there's revisionist history in Kingdom Hearts and Ven's got to stand up and be like, no, they got it wrong. That'd be cool. Honestly, I'd be down for that. You got my mind spinning with all of that, and I'm realizing now that all the dandelions are orbiting Ventus. Like the second Ventus got sent away on that arc, all the dandelions, in a sense, started to orbit him. So hear me out. Who finds him? Xehanort, Eraicus' descendant. Where does he take him? To Ephemer, Brain's descendant. Now, who does he link up with in the future? Elrena and Laurium, with the whole clash with the organization and everything like that. Additionally, who does he befriend? Axel, who's orbiting Subject X, who we believe is now Skuld. So when you trace Ventus's footsteps, it's almost like magnetically all the dandelions, or at least their descendants, just kind of ended up orbiting around him. Again, whether it's Xehanort, Eraicus, whether it's Elrena and Laurium, or whether it's, again, him befriending Axel and Axel having connections to Subject X, potentially, with the whole Subject X Skuld thing going on. So it actually makes me wonder if Ventus is going to be like the magnet that gets all the dandelions in one place. And maybe that's what the Master of Masters is after, because I know he wants to use the dandelions the same way he used the foretellers. And maybe Ventus is the way Xehanort used Kairi to like track Sora, maybe the Master is using Ventus to track all the dandelions.
Ooh, I think that's a good theory, because like, and we kind of even saw it in Union Cross. Ventus was one of the last people to come up with the leaders. They were all together, and they kind of revolved around, especially with this mystery of what happened to Strelitzia. It kind of revolved around Ven. And the same thing when the pure darknesses came out to attack the dandelions, it was because Ven was kind of like in the next room recovering. And that's when they happened to decide to attack. Not that they were related to the Master of Masters, but it does seem that for some reason things seem to revolve around Vin, like the major points seem to revolve around Vin.
Interesting. So, all right, I got someone in my chat by the name of Theo who's a big believer that Ventus is the master of masters. Now, I'd like to get maybe your take on that. And Theo, if you're listening, feel free to explain yourself. Feel free to explain yourself. I'm not sure how one would connect those dots, but I see him alluding to it in the chat already. So I'm like, just rip the Band-Aid off and tell us what you're getting at. Do you think something like that is viable?
Only if somehow the master copied himself, like literally copied himself. So like you got the hooded guy walking around, then you got Vin chatting up with the dandelions. That's about the only way I could see it happening. Just because like in Union Cross they are relatively in the same place. Like, yeah, the Masters disappeared, but he was kind of just like sitting up on the hill, chopping it up with one of the pure darknesses. So in that sense, I don't think, because that whole same room explanation is like, well, they technically were in the same world. So I can't say that it's a 1-to-1 Ventus is the Master of Masters. Now, like I said, if the Master of Masters throughout his experimentations also devised a way to copy himself, like make a total copy of himself, and then do a form change into Ventus, I could see that. But yeah, that's about the only solution I could see to that theory.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. The one thing that I would give credence to this theory is there's so much symbolism pointing the Master of Masters to the concept of light. And with Ventus being a pure light, I can see how someone could connect those dots. But by that same metric, I could connect them to Snow White, right? For being pure light, Princess of Heart, whatever it may be. So the connections between the Master of Masters and light is something I could see. All right, Theo's here now. He says, you have to buy the time loop theory for it to work. If you don't believe it was a time loop until Sora broke it, then it doesn't work, obviously. Xehanort is a big link to the theory. Okay, again, I'm not... Like, I get what you're saying, but I can't map it out. Like, I see what you're getting at, but I can't map it out. This is an interesting part that I don't know what to make of this. I've thought about this more than I would like to admit. But Andy123 brings up every time Lushu looks at Sora in KH2 and Xion in Days, he seems to see Ventus as Xion. And he always talks about Ventus's angry look as though he has a history with him back then, even though we know they never interacted. Yeah, see that, I can't tell you what that does to my brain. Lushu obviously has a history with Ventus, one that gets under his skin. Meanwhile, in all of Union Cross, we never saw the two of them interact. Like, can you make anything of that? I can't, I'm begging for breadcrumbs on this. Like, what's going on there?
The only thing I could possibly see is that Lushu was the Watcher, right? So maybe in the Union Cross days, especially when darkness had taken over Ventus, and he ended up murdering Strelitzia, that Lushu happened to like kind of be in the background somewhere and saw all of that happening, and maybe he took it as of like god dang it, you are messing up this plan. And maybe that's why, and the only reason I come to that conclusion is that with Lushu being kind of in the background watching, we see later in Union Cross that Lushu is guiding someone who seems to be wearing a white robe, who we are led to think is Strelitzia. So I'm thinking like it might have to do something with that. But outside of that, I was like, yeah, Vin didn't really have an angry look throughout the rest of Union Cross. So
that's the part that gets me, is the angry look. Like, I can understand why Lushu would see Ventus. As you explained, Lushu was the Watcher. He said he'd watch over the Dandelions. Ventus was in Sora's heart. Xion came from Sora. The chain of memory there is very clear. So I definitely understand why Ventus manifested in that moment. But the whole angry look thing,
Yeah.
I don't. Days. Wait. No, I mean, actually, maybe it's simpler than we think. In Birth by Sleep, doesn't he make a comment to Ventus like, you got the angry look down? When, like, he's kind of frozen and, like, grimacing. Like,
okay, yeah, because he did end up seeing him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Days comes after that. So it could be as simple as that. Like, maybe it's just more simple than any of us are giving it credit for.
Yeah, and because it's Lushu, right, he's like an ancient Keyblade master, so he can be able to see like another person's like heart or essence within whoever he's facing at the time. So that would tie into like, okay, of course you would see Vin's essence in Sora. Of course you would see it in Xion because Vin was using Sora's heart to heal. So Sora took on a lot of parts of Vin for that time. And in that same token, when Roxas and Xion were formed from Sora's heart, of course they would take on some of Vin as well. So
yeah, that would, yeah, that makes sense to me. Oh man, but man, he's such an interesting character. Do you think? Hear me out. So remember how I brought up earlier that Roxas making contact with Kairi allowed Kairi to get her memories of Sora back? What if Sora making contact with Strelitzia lets Strelitzia get memories of Ventus back? You kind of, or it doesn't even have to be a Ventus, but it almost makes me wonder if we're kind of walking down a similar road here.
I could definitely see that, especially because Sora and Strelitzia have like nothing, not necessarily nothing in common, but like they've never crossed paths, they don't know each other. So but Sora making contact with her should wake up some memories, not only within herself, but it should also maybe wake up memories within Vin, like whether or not that is good or bad in that moment for Ventus, just because he's going to remember the worst part of it, right? So but I can't imagine, because Sora and Vin had that connection, and they've had it for over 10 years now, that if Sora, once Sora makes contact with Strelitzia, it might wake up like a good bulk of Union Cross memories for Vin, and in that same token, it might wake up who Strelitzia was. Although she does like refer to herself as dead in the Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer, so she's aware that she has some kind of memory, but it might wake up the rest of it.
Which, are there any deeper connections between Ventus and Strelitzia other than the fact he struck her down? Like, is there anything else tying those two together?
I think there's a reason that he chose her to strike down. I don't feel like that was random. I feel like there was a reason.
What if it's as simple as Strelitzia ends up being the true dandelion and Ventus is the pure light, and maybe there's something with the master's plan that involves putting those two pieces together, the true dandelion and a pure light?
I can see that. I can see like they had to cross each other's paths and be in connection with each other. And I do think that maybe Darkness might have gotten an inkling, because there's Darkness following Master and Masters around and just trying to be like, what are you doing, where are you going, and like playing 3D 4D chess with them. So there's a chance that Darkness might have gotten an inkling of that was what the Master had in mind. Okay. And so that's why it decided to overtake Vin and target Strelitzia.
Yeah, it could, like, again, so much of this is top down. Like, a lot of the events that happen in Kingdom Hearts, especially Union Cross, is like top down planning. It's the master trying to set up the pieces. Like I always say, he's like playing a mixture of chess and dominoes. He's setting the pieces up on the board, and then when he flicks it in motion, everything falls into place. So the master clearly had a reason to want Strelitzia dead, and maybe it was all a plan of trying to get to that world he couldn't conceive. And clearly there was a sort of plan with Ventus. again, I just can't shake the feeling that the two of them might have a larger role to play in all of this. Yeah, I don't know. Let me ask you this then. Let's move to something a little bit less convoluted, even though, convoluted is what we show up for. Do you think there's a future friendship between Ventus and Kairi brewing?
Oh, I kind of hope so. Just because like that would be cool to see, and I think like with Vin being asleep that long and Vin's heart being within Sora, like he's also like shared probably the feelings, got to feel and share the feelings that Sora had, right? So if nothing else, I think Vin would be very curious to want to be like, well, who is Kairi? And especially because like it's set up for Kairi to start training with Master Aqua. So Kairi's probably going to be in the land of departure now for some time. So I think that, Vin still being there, that would be a good setup for them to get to know each other on that level. But yeah, it's one of those things like I kind of hope so, because I think that would be really interesting to see, especially because with Vin being in Sora's heart, there's this question of like, we're pretty sure it was Sora's feelings, but also did Vin also feel something, or was he also curious? So just like in that sense of like, how will they interact? Will they be like will they become like super close friends and all that? But I do hope that happens.
Me too. I kind of like the idea of them being like brother sister disciples, in the sense maybe now that Terra has trained Riku, he'll mentor Ventus, and like Land of Departure could be Terra training Ventus, Aqua training Kairi. And I could see the two of them really growing from there. I want to give a shout out to my man Adonai, who brought up some pretty cool symbolism in regards to Ventus. Basically saying Ventus is the wind that scatters the dandelions, right? Like the dandelions fly off to another world. And like we brought up, strangely, all the dandelions and their descendants and bloodlines seem to be orbiting Ventus. Again, almost like he's the wind that's carrying everything. We brought up earlier him kind of being like a magnetic force that brings all the dandelions together. How do you feel, coming off that? Some people think the true dandelion is Ventus and not Strelitzia. Is that something you think is compatible?
The only pushback I would give that, well, and I'm beating my own argument in my head. I was gonna give pushback of like, well, why would Lucy refer to whoever was in the cloak as a true dandelion? But on that same token, was that a move done by Lucy to like confuse the darkness talking to him at the time? So maybe it was like to throw him off. So in that sense, like I do see some credence to that theory, just because like a dandelion is supposed to be the being a true light that is carried into the future, and Ventus like they've all traveled to the future. I would argue that between Vin, Lorium, and Elrena, they've traveled the farthest into the future.
Yeah, and now that I think about it, the wind symbolism is really strong when you talk about the time travel stuff. And like you said, like there aren't many characters that have flown through time more than Ventus. Interesting perspective here. Wildcat Diana over on Twitch says, wouldn't Ven also suffer from survivor's guilt, since not being a Union leader, he may not even be a real dandelion and would have died in the Keyblade War? That could be an interesting perspective to play with. Him really not feeling like he belongs anywhere. That could be something. Actually, yeah, now that I think about it, he could be a character that doesn't feel like he has a real home, doesn't feel like he really belongs anywhere. Because even with Terra and Aqua, he was like the odd one out.
Right.
Between the two of them. And even with Lorium and Elrena, he kind of is too. That's an interesting thought. I like that. They also say Ven might have a bigger role into saving Sora than we realize now. It's a light switcheroo. Can you flesh that out a little more? But before we get on that more, what do you think about Ven having a role in bringing Sora home? And do you think that's ultimately going to be part of his arc in the next game or two? Do you think has a role in that? Because I, for one, think Naminé has a huge role in that. That's someone who I've always campaigned is going to have a big role in bringing Sora home. Do you think Ventus is a part of that as well? I have a little trouble seeing it. That's why I hope Diana elaborates further. But what do you think?
I think that there is a chance that Vin could play a big role in that, in the sense that if the Master sees Sora and sees his ability and is like, this is a special person, I could use him for even more. Maybe in that sense, Vin would be the one to, just like he did with that pure darkness in Union Cross, maybe he would step to the Master of Masters and say, I want to make a deal with you, like take me instead. I also think that because Vin and Sora's heart, like their hearts have that connection, and so in a sense I feel like they're always going to be a part of each other because of that he could also help the rest of the Guardians. Like we know Riku went there on his own to find Sora, but if Kairi is going to keep her word and say, I'm going to get stronger, but I'm also going to show up, then Vin could be that guide for her of there might be some, because of that connection that he and Sora had, there might be some way that he could lead her to her maybe a lot quicker. And that's how they both would end up in Quadratum with Sora and Riku as well. So that's kind of how I see Vin playing his part in bringing Sora home. Like if it's in the sense of like maybe making a deal, and because if we're going back to that survivor's guild and not feeling 100% like he belongs anywhere, kind of making that deal with the Master of Masters of, well, you have me, I'm also of pure light, or I'm someone of pure light from way back when, so take me and let Sora go. If they played into Sora being held captive, that's how I see that.
Yeah, and Addison Sanders brings up a good point to add credence to what you said, that Sora saved Ven in the past, so Ventus is going to have some desire to want to return that favor. And Diana elaborated, said Strelitzia is a true dandelion that was switched by Ven, a pure light, hence the light switcheroo. So now I'm starting to pick up what you're putting down, that they could pull that move all over again to try and bring Sora home. Interesting. And then we have Theo Wayne, who's popping up over here, says, leaning towards Master using the Sora time travel, which is why he disappears the same as Sora. But what was Master of Masters time traveling to do? Break the time loop, of course. Master of Masters writes the book and does what he does because he wants to change a future he already witnessed. The theory is alive. He witnesses the future because he was Ventus. No name is a red herring, perhaps. The eye is way too big to be human. So I hate saying it because I don't want to be dismissive, but like, you did lose me as he saw the future because he's Ventus. Again, I'm vibing with what a lot of what you're saying, Theo. I can't say, I don't know. Have you been moved at all on Ventus, Master of Masters? Have you been moved at all? How are you on that right now?
It's just hard for me to see, honestly. I don't think Sora is a Master of Masters either, but I would say Sora is before Vin is.
Yeah, I suppose I'd probably agree with that. I wouldn't like it if it's either of them, if I'm being honest. Well,
no, yeah.
I could be sold on it. Execution is everything. I suppose with proper execution, almost anything, I guess, could be viable. But I don't know. I've not moved on it. Doesn't make me love you any less, Theo, but I'm unmoved. Rural Neptune is here, says Landy and Muse. My heart can't handle this much Kingdom Hearts love at one time. Well, thank you.
Aww.
Thank you, Neptune. Always good having you here. Andy says, feel like since Riku is in Quadratum, is going to be like in Dream Drop Distance when Sora is in Quadratum and Riku's on the other side with Neku and the others. You're basically saying Dream Drop Distance Part 2. I mean, I wouldn't complain.
Right.
I wouldn't complain. I think I'd be okay with that. But it's hard for me to imagine a numbered title without Donald and Goofy in the party. Like, I actually, maybe just to spin us off Ventus for a minute, what I've actually been thinking, I think Hades is going to send Donald and Goofy to Quadratum. Because, like, I can't see them doing a number title without that trio together. I don't know.
I do think they will probably end up there in there at some point, like not in the beginning, maybe like in the middle towards the end. But I'm kind of on the side of like I want Sora to be by himself for a little bit, like
I would.
more
I
than
want that. I definitely want
yeah,
that. I'm just not sure they'll do it.
yeah.
Like we might get a prologue. We might get like a Roxas like segment of Sora being alone. Because I'm with you. I think that's a big part of the future of the story. You know, a character who's always relied on his friends, and we saw the ugly side of what could happen when somebody takes that up in Kingdom Hearts 3. But Wildcat Diana is popping off on Twitch yet again, saying the last thing Ephemer said to Lauriam was take care of Ven. So maybe the reunion will include Lauriam saving Ven as well.
Oh.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. And the fact that Ephemer said it to him, Ephemer, who ended up being an ancestor of Xehanort, who recruited Marlo. Gee, the layers. The layers. Oh my goodness. Okay. Rural Neptune says, have you guys seen the fan animation of Riku and Kairi finding Sora? I feel as though the animation might hold some keys as to what could happen. I've not seen that, but I suppose if you want to throw that in the chat for people to bookmark, I wouldn't be opposed. Always like a good fan animation. All right, we're at the 1 hour mark, so this is usually where we get, kind of loose about things. And was there anything regarding Ventus that you want to talk about today that we haven't touched on?
I do, and this is just like purely gameplay mechanics type of thing. I do hope that we see a slightly buffed up Ven, if we do get to play as him at some point in the Lost Master arc. I would love to see that, just because like we got a little bit, we got the Birth by Sleep treatment of him, and we understood like he was the youngest, he was kind of the baby, so he wasn't going to be as fluid as Aqua or even Terra. But that said, I did like his potential. I did like kind of how he moved. I thought the unique way he held his keyblade was really cool. So I'm just kind of hoping we get like a more buffed up, a more powerful version of that at some point in the Lost Master arc. But yeah, I didn't know if you had any way you felt about it, one way or the other, as far as that goes.
I would actually love if they introduce stances to the gameplay mechanics, like maybe as a consequence of having Ventus and Roxas in Sora's heart, he can now switch to the Ventus stance, maybe you just give one Keyblade that ability to kind of reintroduce that gameplay, because it is pretty hardcore. The backhanded Keyblade. There's there's something real cool about that. And we know Sora can dual wield, so we can just lie and say it's because of Roxas. But that would be cool, because I think there is a unique gameplay aspect to Ventus, and I think it's one of the things that makes Birth by Sleep such a unique entry in the Kingdom Hearts canon, and why I think a game like that, we may never get it again, where you have these 3 protagonists with a unique moveset. I don't know, were you part of the train that thought we were going to get a Birth by Sleep 2 when we saw the 3 of them going into the Realm of Darkness?
Oh, I did briefly think that, just because of, it seemed like people were going on their own journey. So I was like, oh, so we're going to get like the reunion with the Wayfinder trio, like, trying to get through the Realm of Darkness. But then like Melody and Memory came out. I was like, well, there goes that plan. So
yeah, I won't lie. I mean, it was a tease. That was a bit of a tease. We thought we were going to get our little Birth by Sleep too. Because I talk about it a lot, but there's a lot of characters that I think are just going to get benched. But the Birth by Sleep trio is not who I think's getting benched, save for Terra. But it's very obvious that Nomura has bigger plans for those 3 than he did, say, Axel, Roxas, and Shion. And that's not a statement on the quality of those characters. I love those characters, but I think something Ventus has always had going for him is that he's been a consideration since Kingdom Hearts 2, the earliest. This is a character that Nomura clearly had plans for a long time. All right, let me ask you this. If there was do you see any connection between Ventus and Gula? Many people have floated that out. Do you think there's any connection between those two?
I have seen people kind of float that out, especially like in fan arts and stuff. I can kind of see the similarities. I can't say for sure if I think there's like a real connection between the two. If anything, the thing that I could see that would be probably like most plausible is that Vin ends up fighting Gula, whether it's like to because the darkness took on its physical manifestation, and that's just how they come across each other. It's like I can see that being like a not necessarily a secret boss, but some type of boss fight where for some reason we're controlling Vin and Vin is the one to have to fight Gula because they tend to have pretty similar characteristics.
Yeah, I actually want to speak on that for a little bit. Between Ventus and Gula, I feel like you have. Oh God, I just had it. The lost page. That was it. So think about Gula's lost page and like Ventus's memories, right? There's this key information that's been isolated onto one character. But if the other characters knew this information, it would change everything. If the other foretellers knew about the lost page, that Keyblade War may not have happened. If all the Guardians learn about the memories that Ventus has to regain, who knows what kind of repercussions that has? Maybe that makes them panic about Sora, and now Kairi is suddenly really hasty to get to Quadratum, because now I could see something like that. Ventus's memories become uncovered as a consequence of Chirithy and Naminé. They learn about the Master of Masters and the Foretellers, Book of Prophecies, this plan, and now Kairi, and this is a flaw her character has had in the past, which makes her very interesting. Now she acts hastily and rushes herself into Quadratum as a consequence of those memories coming back. I don't know. Like, that's the best sort of overlap I could see between the two characters. And like you mentioned, their characteristics, their sort of temperament. They're both small boys, like, short kings. Excuse me, short kings. Not small boys, short kings. I gotta speak proper. But man, I don't know. Let's see. Neptune's asking, is Ven the missing link? In a Union Cross standpoint, yes. I think missing link is telling us Scala is the missing link. Maybe I got that wrong, but I don't know.
As far as missing link, I think it's a Scala, Brain. I feel like there's a third thing, but definitely a Scala Brain situation going on that would make it the missing link. But from Union Cross up to present day Kingdom Hearts time, definitely Ven.
Yeah, definitely Ven. And speaking of Brain and missing link, do you think, just keeping it future of Kingdom Hearts based here, do you think we'll learn anything in missing link that shines more of a light on the whole, like Ventus, his memories, Laurium, Elrena? Like, how much is Brain gonna know when he's in Scala during missing link? Is he, like, how much awareness do you think he has? He has a Book of Prophecies, right? So in theory, he would know about where Ventus goes, where this all ends up. Do you see maybe, we're seeing it as the Master might be pulling these strings, but maybe Brain is the one pulling these strings. Maybe the reason everybody's orbiting Ventus is Brain's brainchild as opposed to the Master's.
I think Brain probably does something to set the path so that there does come a point where Van Laurium and Arena come together again. And he did that during his time in Missing Link. I'm also very curious because like it's assumed, it's thought that Brain is who Eraicus's grandfather is, although we don't 100% know that. It's not 100% confirmed, but that's the thought we have right now. So if it is the case that Brain is not Eraicus's grandfather, I'm also curious to see like what happens to Brain's future. How far does he go? Can he does he go a little bit further into the future? And if he is Eraicus's grandfather, then like that makes sense. His time probably ended towards the end of Missing Link, as they had kind of alluded to. Something catastrophic kind of happened to where Eraicus's grandfather was affected, and that's why he kind of had the reaction he did when I think it was Balder who brought it up.
Yeah.
When they were talking on that bridge in Dark Road. So, but to answer the question about Brain's link to Ven, I think that while Brain is in Scala during Missing Link, while there might be some sort of chaos going on, that while that's going on, Brain takes the opportunity to set things in motion so that if whatever catastrophic happens there, Missing Link, it definitely doesn't happen again. It can be kind of averted the next time around.
Yeah, and I feel like no matter whatever the plan ends up being on the Guardian side of things, Ventus has to just be front and center. I just don't see any other way, given everything we've discussed today. Let's see. Addison Sanders says, okay, I know people have talked about this not being the case, but I feel like I have to bring this up. Maybe that era is a blind spot in the Master's gaze, and if that's true, Quadratum could be one as well. I think he knows about Quadratum. Obviously, he's there. He brought it up in Union Cross. But I'm actually a believer in the theory that Missing Link Scala is a blind spot in the Master's knowledge. I think Brain, and maybe it's a consequence of some of his chess moves with Ventus, but I think Brain has successfully subverted the Master. I just do. I think... Because if he didn't, then what else is everything he's doing for?
Right.
So,
and I also think in the very first Missing Link trailer, like, things are shown for a reason. So I definitely think there's a reason that the gazing eye on that Keyblade was covered, like, and it was zoomed in on it. It's like there's yes.
yeah, there has to be. Okay, we're like an hour and 10 right now. Let's maybe take a minute. To spin us off Ventus for a minute, and since we're talking about Missing Link as is, I kind of wanted to jump on there. How are you feeling about the whole Missing Link saga right now? Are you still excited for it, or do you feel like this long wait has sort of dulled the hype? Do you think the game is in trouble? Also, everybody, this is just merely conjecture on M&I's part. Don't take anything we're saying as fact. But yeah, how are you overall feeling about Missing Link? Because personally, I feel like there was so much hype surrounding this game that has since just quieted. And maybe all it takes is one more trailer to get us all spinning again. But in the world of M, how is Missing Link doing?
No, I was gonna actually say, I was like, yeah, I don't work for Square Enix or anything. But yes. No, it's actually funny that you brought that up, because I had made a video about it, basically going through what I think the themes that will be covered in Missing Link, but also how I feel about the whole mobile phone game situation. So, but the short answer is like, I'm still excited about it, honestly. Like, I'm very much for it, looking forward to diving into some more lore, because that era of the Key Saga, what happens in Union Cross and Dark Road and Missing Link, the time before we meet Sora, is something that has very much intrigued me, because it kind of laid that groundwork of why Kingdom Hearts is Kingdom Hearts. So story-wise, lore-wise, I'm very excited for it. The wait has been I did think I would be getting that controller for your phone by now, so that I can within the next couple weeks I can prepare to start playing Missing Link. So the way it's kind of been
you've got that saved Amazon cart too, with all the things.
Yes.
It's just been sitting there for like a year waiting for it. I'm glad I didn't proactively buy it and just be collecting dust at this point.
Right.
But yeah, I've got that. I've got the same sort of plans too, just waiting for it.
But no, overall I'm still excited for it. I do understand why other people have kind of fallen off and kind of feel a way about one, it's a mobile game with the gacha system, and two, it's been delayed a couple times already, so it's but I do understand people's viewpoints about that, but I also come from the time where the non-numbered Kingdom Hearts games were all on different consoles, and I was just like, there's no way I can play them right now, because I'm a kid. I can't afford.
I mean, you can always watch the cutscenes in 240p on YouTube circa 2006.
Exactly. So I'm very much I'm not new to this. So it's just it is what it is.
So let me ask, you did this video talking about some of the themes that'll be coming to Missing Link. Do you maybe want to go over some of those? What themes do you kind of see bleeding through the little bit of lore, footage, and trailers that we've gotten so far?
Yes, super excited. So, I think this is kind of circulating around, what happens after a war, what happens after a catastrophic event, talking about the crumbling of Daybreak Town. So, some of the themes that I touch on that I think will be kind of explained and alluded to in Missing Link are displacement, where you kind of have this question of like, okay, so Eraicus apparently founded Scala, but how did other people come there? Because it seemed like his arc malfunctioned and he was just kind of floating there and was by himself. So I think that Scala is more so going to serve as like a spot for those that have been displaced. Either they fled Daybreak Town and came back, or they came from other worlds. So I think that will be something that's touched on, at least in the lower part of Missing Link. And I also think a big theme that we're probably going to see is classism. Big themes, is classism and corruption. So you have this layout where the founders, they're called the founders now. So founders are apparently the ruling class in Scarlet Kylum. And when Nomura was interviewed about it a couple of years ago, he said there are basically two main branches: the Society of Successors, who apparently have descended from Ephemer, and the Society of Non-Successors, which is like everybody else. So within that Society of Successors, are there other founders included in that now that the founders are established as a ruling class? And what advantages might they have over the non-successors? So I think that might play into whatever catastrophe or how darkness might show up again in Missing Link and Scarlet Kylum. And if those Keyblade wielders or those people who are within the ruling class of the founders, are they going to be corrupted because they're in power? And the whole thing of power begets power. So maybe how things are in Missing Link, they like it, they want to keep it that way. They want to further make sure that Society of Non-Successors can't get their hands on whatever information or privilege that they might have, whether that's like access to the astral plane or maybe more control of it, or just like certain information and memories that they were able to find from the days of Daybreak Town and beforehand. Maybe they want to keep that away from the general population. So those are just some of the themes that I kind of worked out and fleshed out of how it could show up in Missing Link. So,
well, I think you're so right on the money, not just for the reasons you mentioned, but they got one of the writers from Final Fantasy XIV to work on Missing Link, which is personally, obviously, I know people are tired of hearing me praise that game to no end, but that's personally what has me so excited for Missing Link, because I find the writing in Final Fantasy XIV to be arguably the best Square Enix has ever put out. That said, this writer particularly was big on the expansion of Heavensward, where thematically it has overlap with literally every single thing you just said. The fallout from a war, a class system, corruption, all of that playing out. A society that has, a favorited and protected class versus, contrasted with people who are not part of that favored and protected class. It's all right there. And as far as Kingdom Hearts goes, where Kingdom Hearts themes were always more mature than its aesthetic, not saying either one of those things is a good or bad thing, but it seems like Missing Link, and maybe by virtue of being a mobile game that's not as much in the spotlight, is looking to tackle some very mature themes that have not been present in the Kingdom Hearts series, in the sense of like, what sort of thematics or statements are made about society as a whole in the Kingdom Hearts series. It's all very individually based in sort of those things. But now, because Kingdom Hearts, I guess by virtue, is about traveling to all these different worlds, whereas Missing Link, you're really only going to be in one world, and the worlds you travel to are sort of like scraps of memory thrown together. So it'll be interesting to see what it's like in Kingdom Hearts for once to really only exist in one living, breathing world. Now, I know Union Cross kind of did that with Daybreak Town, but given the nature of the chibi sprites and the way you navigate through that game, you don't really feel like Daybreak Town is alive. However, from the beta for Missing Link, what we could see, like, you're going to be walking around, you're going to see other players, things are going to evolve. So it'll be very interesting to see a Kingdom Hearts game where all of the lore and world building is going to happen inside of one original world, and that it's going to tackle certain things that the other parts of the series really don't have much business tackling. Like, again, these themes of classism, corruption, fallout from a war. Kingdom Hearts 4 can't tackle those because it's too busy dealing with Sora and the themes that surround his story. Missing Link really does have this unique opportunity to sort of have an aesthetic and a narrative tone that no other entry in the series can possibly muster up. And that's personally, to me, what gets me so excited about Missing Link. Like, I hope the gameplay is good, don't get me wrong, but at the very least, the story itself, the way it's being set up, I think that's the draw. I think that's the most exciting thing. So, look, I'll wait as long as I need to, as long as that narrative is neat, clean, and you let that FF14 writer do their thing. So, that's just where I stand.
No, yeah, I totally agree. That's why I was like, I am definitely no stranger to waiting. So, like, it's been kind of a slog only because, like, I'm actively, like, covering it now. If I were just a passive, like, gamer, I probably wouldn't feel it as much. But no, I'm very much like, I'm letting the writers cook. I know that, like, I have faith that it's going to be a really good story. And that's what I'm excited for.
Me too. And I mean, even the little bit we got to see, it's already kind of off to a good start. You know, it's got an isekai vibe to it, you know, because the player kind of just spawns into this new world and you kind of assimilate however you need to assimilate. But yeah, look, to bring it back to Ventus, Wildcat Diana on Twitch asked us a Ventus question. Said, did Eraicus know about Ven and his grandpa's friendship, or was just the fear of another Baldur that made him treat Ven differently?
Ooh.
That's a good question, because I think with Eraicus, there's more to light than meets the eye, right? We don't know how much he knew, but honestly, based on his chess match with Xehanort, he clearly knew a thing or two about the Lost Masters and everything like that. Like, I'm wondering, because Odin in Dark Road seemed to have more suspicions of Xehanort than Eraicus, so I wonder if Eraicus kind of got, like, some favoritism and, you know, the Master's favorite story. Maybe Odin shared more with Eraicus than he did Xehanort, and maybe he did that to kind of protect things. I don't know. You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, and also because, like, it looked like Eraicus was raised in Scarlet Kylam, or, you know, whatever fallout happened, and Eraicus was raised shortly after, so he was just there the whole time, whereas Xehanort is seen as an outsider, even though he's descended from Ephemer, but clearly not a lot of people, if anybody, really knew that. So that might be another reason why Odin might have been a little more distant with Xehanort as opposed to Eraicus. But I also think that there might be a chance that, you know, the young Eraicus that we see in the chess match is very open, very, like, not naive, but just, like, there's this innocence about him and wanting to do the right thing and wanting to, like, try to take care of everybody as much as possible. But that wasn't our first introduction to Eraicus. Our first introduction to Eraicus was in Birth by Sleep, where he very much gave off dad in the sense of, like, trying to, you know, guide Terra, Aqua, and then later Ven. But we could also see of, like, if anything, like, very much an overprotective type of dad of, like, no, I mean, no, we get that dark is bad, but also it's a lot. You're doing a lot. So, but once we learn the backstory of Eraicus and Xehanort, especially through their time in Dark Road and all that, it's like, oh, this is Eraicus years, decades down the road after seeing what happened to his classmates, after being betrayed by Baldur, after falling out with Xehanort as well. So I think that how Eraicus treated Ven was more so of, like, I don't want to, you're very new, I don't know who you are, so I'm gonna keep my distance and watch over you, but also make sure that you're not corrupted, because Xehanort was the one who brought you in, and Xehanort ended up literally stabbing him in the back. So I think there's just like a lot within Eraicus that he was trying to like, he couldn't quite determine and was trying to figure out, I think by the time he met Ben.
Yeah. It because again, we never know quite what he's thinking, right? But he obviously seems to know a little bit more than he lets on. But clearly, he can't know too much because, like, his views of light and darkness are so old timey. Let's say that, I guess.
Yes.
So, yeah, I hope it's something we learn more about. Like, I am on the train that I do think we'll see Eraicus and Xehanort again, even if it's just like a flashback or it's like within someone's consciousness. So I do have hope that we'll learn a little bit more about that, but you never know. Enrique Miranda says, can't Ven be used as a portal to get to Sora since their hearts are connected? But are their hearts still connected? That would be my question. Right? I feel like, because like he's out now. He's out. It makes me wonder, maybe Vanitas would have to be what connects them. Maybe Vanitas has to be the common thread. I don't know. Okay, let's see. Second. Lily Litchi? I think I said it right. The angry look came from birth by sleep, not Union Cross. Yeah, I think we mentioned when he was like in like a frozen stasis.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. We are coming up on an hour and a half. So I suppose I'll ask the question again, maybe not just Ventus based, but was there anything Kingdom Hearts wise you wanted to discuss today that we haven't gotten to?
Let's see. I was curious on your thoughts of because we're very much in like focusing on the Master of Masters in this next arc. So do you think they're gonna use the story of the Master of Masters because they already pointed out the nuances of darkness and how darkness has evolved from being thought of as like just plain bad to like, well, actually, darkness is within pretty much everyone. So that doesn't mean everybody is bad, but also we've seen, especially with like Riku's arc and even Master Xehanort, that was like, no, darkness can actually be used as a tool. Doesn't mean that you have to succumb to it or be overtaken. So do you think that maybe we'll see kind of the opposite with the nuances of light, where we've been led to believe throughout this whole time in Kingdom Hearts that, light is pure and good, but it could also be too much in the sense of like, how far are you willing to go to ensure that, the world is on the side of light as opposed to darkness? Are you gonna try to wipe out everything that might be darkness, even if that is at the cost of people who aren't evil or aren't bad, but at the cost of people who had trusted you or were close to you? It's speaking specifically about the Master and his foretellers.
Yeah, so I'll say, for one, contrary to, I guess, casual belief, Kingdom Hearts has, since Kingdom Hearts 2 at the earliest, kind of started to address the sort of nuances of light and dark, right? By the time we get to the end of Kingdom Hearts 2, we know darkness doesn't equal evil. We know light and darkness are a balance, right? We're already there by Kingdom Hearts 2. So we learned that darkness isn't always evil, right? But I think what you're getting at, and where I think the series is going to go, is like, okay, but just like darkness isn't always bad, we have to learn that light isn't always good. And like, symbolically, I see it as, if you have nothing but darkness, you're blind and can't see. Much in the same way, if you have nothing but light, you're blind and you can't see. Like, quite literally, if I shine 2 big lights right into your eye, I can blind you. Like, quite literally. That's why you can't look directly at the sun. At least I don't recommend it. But like, I think that is where we're headed. And again, not to bring it up again, but that's a big part of FF14 and its symbolism, is that, hey, it's not just about being a warrior of light and snuffing out the darkness. heroes at times will have to be warriors of darkness as well and snuff out the light. So I do think that's where we're headed. I think it would be disappointed if we weren't headed that way. But I also think, and maybe this happens a little later down the line, I feel like Nomura's desperately trying to escape the narrative of light versus darkness, which at the end of the day, from epic fantasies like Lord of the Rings to the latest rom-coms, light versus darkness is pretty much always the narrative. Chaos and order, light and darkness, and trying to balance the two. I feel like the whole thing with the Master of Masters is, can we make it about something more? And maybe the answer is no. Maybe the answer is no. But I feel like that's almost what they're trying to play out is, can we get beyond this? But I don't know. That's just what I think.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's see. Andy says Riku is the best example of using darkness and light is good. Yes, and I wonder, because it's still pretty unique to him, right? Like Terra can use it, Aqua can use it, but we don't see them use it as comfortably as Riku does. You know, which makes me wonder if that's going to stay unique to Riku, or maybe Aqua's going to have some dark type moves now. Who knows? What do you think?
I was curious because you know, it's kind of a running theme now of like, we don't know what they might do with Terra. I don't know if Terra will even come back, or you know, if they'll show him as well. But because Terra was the one who chose Riku as his successor, I am curious, and because he had his own struggles with darkness, and was very much wanting power, I was curious, and honestly, I'm kind of hoping it was like, can Terra have some sort of character development in this next arc where he does get comfortable using darkness, kind of maybe not right at the same level as Riku, but maybe like to a similar degree.
Yeah, because again, we've seen him use it as early as Birth by Sleep, so he clearly has the capacity for it. And I feel like Terra's arc really wouldn't be complete unless he had a literal handle on his darkness. So I almost think it might be pretty cool to see Riku mentor Terra now. You know, Terra mentored him just in the fundamentals of being a Keyblade wielder. But maybe now that they're on more equal footing, Terra goes to Riku, like, with quite a bit of humility, which would show so much growth for the character, by the way. For him to have that kind of humility to go to Riku and be like, hey, can you teach me that Dark Firaga move? Like, I kind of like to work with that. You know, I think that would show people a different side of Terra. And maybe that's what being a Keyblade master is all about, is not being afraid to learn from your fellow masters, not placing yourself above people in that way. I don't know. I would love to see, because Terra's one of those characters where I scratch my head. I'm like, what do you do with him now? Like, he was so important to Dark Seeker Saga. It's like, did you use him up? Are we out of juice? Like, is the bottle empty, or can we refill it? Again, there's no questions for Aqua and Ved. We can, as we've done today in this episode, we can very easily map out where the future of those two go. But as for the trio as a whole, it's very hard to see where Terra's headed. But we'll see. Can't be much longer now. Okay. Will's word, Sage of the Lodge, says, if I am correct, being a Keyblade master is not mastering the Keyblade, but mastering your heart. Will's word, I think you're 100% right. And when people go, why isn't Sora a master? Now you know. Now you know. Now you know. Zeb,
I also think,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, I also think Sora isn't a master yet, because like, he hasn't had that struggle arc, as I like to call it. And I think that this is what this Lost Master arc is going to be about, in part, is like, that's going to be Sora's struggle arc.
I like that, the struggle arc. I think, like, to see that we're clear, I feel like for Riku, his Chain of Memories appearance would be like his struggle arc. That's where he had to like literally confront the darkness within him. And solidified his friendship with Mickey. I mean, Dream Drop Distance is there too, but I feel like that's a lot of him growing past that. The Master of Masters himself has arrived, and he just throws a $2 super chat on the table and moonwalks right into his seat. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. What's up, dude? What is up? Theo says Terra is Proto-Riku, but never quite become a Twilight in my opinion. He seems to go full pure light after his freedom from Xehanort. Maybe that's it. Maybe he got cleansed of his darkness. But I'm not going to lie. I wouldn't like that too much.
Yeah, and I do see that going in that direction just because like Eraicus' spirit was within Terra, like protecting him and all of that while he was lost to darkness. So I can definitely see them being like I can definitely see that being like because Eraicus was within Terra, like he has since cleansed the whatever darkness was within him. But I do agree. I was like, I hope they don't go that route as far as Terra's character development, but I can see how they would go that route.
Yeah, I could see them going either way, but I'm definitely partial to the what would you say? To the darkness route. I just think that's I think that's better for where we're going. I think it makes Terra more interesting. Or maybe Terra's the kind of character who's like, no, like I can't go down that road at all. Like, I actually think it would be cool to see maybe some trauma there where like he can't like manifest the darkness without like getting some kind of PTSD or like flashes of Xehanort are in his brain. You know, like that could be very cool to get into. So I don't know. I think he's an interesting character. I don't think he's as dull as people give him not credit for, but people dismiss him for. But I would say he's the weakest of his trio. Would you agree?
I would agree in the sense of like we didn't really see. I mean, we saw some growth in the sense of like, okay, he didn't like cave to darkness, which is great, but it was because Xehanort overpowered him and Eraicus protected him, so he had 10 years to kind of sit on it. So in that sense of like he's weak in that he didn't really have a growth moment. He was just like kind of wondering and trying to keep his promise to his friends. It was like I think him turning out to be the guardian in Kingdom Hearts 3 and like yes, and finally pushing himself through. I think that would be a great start to his development, to his like further development, but overall development wise he probably is the weakest just because Vin has like years of history with Union Cross up to where we are now, and Aqua, we've seen Aqua's own development and how she overcame being in the realm of darkness and like falling back and still being like coming to terms with like she was there but now she's back in the realm of light, so she's pushing forward. So yeah, in that sense I would say Terra's pretty weak. Just like we haven't seen like a lot of growth, just enough though.
Yeah, and in the way that Aqua has like achieved the title of like group mom, like Terra has not become like group dad.
Yes.
Know? So like that's where like because like with Aqua, right? Like there's not much lore wise that connects her to the future. You know, there's no real ties to Union Cross there. I've talked about her overlap with Envy. I think the two of them are destined to clash. But, you know, that's where Kairi kind of comes in for her. Kairi really is Aqua's bridge into this next arc.
Yeah.
I think it would be, how do I put it? I think it would be remiss, I suppose, not to have some kind of, I'd like to see Aqua and Ventus struggle a little bit. I'd like to see Ventus struggle with Aqua's protectiveness because I don't think that stops.
Yeah.
She treats Ventus like he's a little kid, like,
right?
You know, and I'd like to see I'd like to see that clash a little bit. You know what I mean? I'd like when Ventus gets his memories back, be like, oh, homegirl, you got no idea what I've been through. Realm of darkness. Okay. Try having the realm of darkness literally in your heart. So I think I would like to, like, in terms of Ventus's future and how to get the other two in the trio involved, I'd like to see the fact that he's becoming so important and so involved almost scare Aqua. Like the idea of Ventus going to Quadratum without her leads to her to do
Right.
something stupid or do something hasteful. I almost feel like they alluded to that in Kingdom Hearts 3 a little bit, where after you rescue all three of them, Sora's going on up ahead, and Ventus is like, let me come with you, let me come with you. And Sora's
Right.
like, no. That's what he wants, for us to make a mistake like that. I almost feel like maybe that could be a foreshadowing for now. Ventus kind of wants to put on the hurry up for Quadratum, whether it be Strelitzia, Sora, whatever gets him thinking that way. So, yeah, I don't know. That's where I put it.
I would be interested to see, like, I think that tension between Aqua and Vin could even come as early as when Lorium and Elrena, if they do come to Vin and are like, can you come with us? I feel like that will be the start of their struggle. Because Aqua's also going to be like, we just fought you guys. No.
Yeah. Not feeling this.
Yeah.
Not feeling this. That's funny. I guess one more thing I guess I would want to ask is the whole paradigm of the 7 crowns. They haven't been very explicit about what that is, but do you think that's something Ventus can fall into, or do you think that's something that will exist externally from Ventus?
So it's kind of funny because even though I did put a theory out about this, I'm not married to it. So my mind changes on it pretty much. So the 7 crowns, I think, are I actually think that if I can remember it, it's light, darkness, dreams, memories, fiction. I'm trying to remember them all, but
so light, darkness, fiction, the realm between,
yeah,
light, darkness, fiction, realm between data worlds and the dream.
Data, yes. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so I thought it was really, really interesting that that little detail in Melody of Memory was when Ansem the Wise pointed out and just like spelled it out. It's like, oh, that's okay. So these are the realms, so the crowns are probably going to be masters over those particular realms. So that was the theory I was kind of working with, and am still kind of on the line of right now. So when I fleshed out that theory, Ventus wasn't considered in there because it is very. I think the writers try to make it pretty apparent that Sora is going to be like Master of Light at some point in time. So that's who I gave the Crown of Light to. But it's not to say it's like it could be Ventus because he is someone of pure light. So I'm not ruling it out totally, but my prevailing theory is that I think it'll be Guardians external, like outside of Ventus, who would hold those crowns. So it's just a matter now. Nah, I don't really want to let them have Crown of Memories either, because I think that's very much reserved for, I forgot who I said. Oh, Memory was Kairi. So I think that's very much reserved for Kairi, especially with her
connection to
how
Naminé.
her connection to Naminé. So yeah, I can't.
I like that. You know, I really like that. The idea that each crown is for like a certain realm.
Yes.
Like I actually really love that. Like Zora could be the world of fiction, True King.
Yep.
As you mentioned. Yep. Like that. Oh, like that is so cool. Who did you have for dreams?
Let's see. Dreams was hard for me. I think I had put.
That gotta be Riku, because he's the Dream Eater.
Oh, that's a good point. So I put Riku for darkness because he was the one. No. I put Xehanort for darkness. I put Riku for between. Because he was very much can fluctuate between light and darkness. Was my reasoning.
Okay.
I think I put Lorium for dreams actually, because the dreams was his clue that something that happened to Strelitzia, and I kind of went off from there. So yeah.
Who did you have for data?
Lucio.
Ooh, okay, I see that. Because he's the man with he's got the data.
Yep.
He's got it. Oh my god. That is That's very, because I've so desperately tried to figure out what is the parameters for being a crown, right? When you're a princess of heart,
Right.
the parameters are clear, heart of pure light.
Yeah.
Like the dandelions, the parameters are very clear. It's if Ava chose you.
Yes.
It's straightforward, yet not a lot of symbolism there, but the parameters are clear. With the crowns, we're just left in the dark, and I don't think I've just ever heard that proposal before, and I actually love it. Like, I actually love it, and maybe the master's plan is to converge all those 7 realms into one. Like, I do love it. I do love it. Oh my god. So the 7 realms, let me see if I can try and recap them. So we got light, dark, between, data, dreams, fiction. What am I missing?
Memories.
Memories. Yeah, there it is. Oh my lord. Oh my lord. Let me can I get that video of yours? I want to throw a link in the chat.
Yeah, I'll
I
send
think
it to you.
Yeah. Can you send it to me on Twitter? Because if I minimize our Discord,
Oh, I
here,
got
we
you.
might get doxxed, and we don't want that.
Oh yeah.
so yeah, shoot at me on
That
Twitter.
would
I'll
be
drop that in.
easier.
That is
Okay.
That is so. Let me tell you, I'm going. Please don't get mad at me. I'm going to shamelessly plug you right now. This is why I say it all the time. I really think you're one of, if not the most underrated creator in the Kingdom Hearts space. Just because you have the mind that comes up with ideas like this. I
truly appreciate that. I remember when you tagged me one of the first times you said it. It was like a random Monday on Twitter. I was like,
yeah, I watched some video of yours. Like, seriously, I watched some video of yours after I just got done watching like a big Kingdom Hearts YouTuber's video, and I liked your video like infinitely better. Not a shot at the previous video. I'm not going to bring up who it is or what video it was, but I was like, yeah, in my head, I'm like, you should be the one with like 40,000 plus subs. Like, so yeah, I'll always sing your praises for these reasons, just because like there are different kinds of creators in the Kingdom Hearts community. God knows we have so many of them, but my favorites are the ones with the ideas. People like you, people like Sonny Novus, like the Secret Reports, like the big brain ideas, people who are who take a stab at explaining something that hasn't been explained yet.
yes.
And to get me spinning about the 7 crowns, 7 like worlds theory. This is getting me going. But yeah, I'm going to throw that link in the chat, everybody, both on YouTube and Twitch. We're at an hour and 45. So to repeat myself, I guess I'll ask, is there anything else we could spin on? But I
Okay, this
say,
is like
down the line, I want to revisit this crowns thing with you one day, because I think
absolutely. Absolutely, I'd definitely be down. So this is gonna be like a super random question, and it's because I can't help it. I think they're absolutely adorable. I I am curious. I am concerned about the other Chirithys, like Laurium's Chirithy, Arena's Chirithy. Are they gonna come back?
So have you seen? So did you see that, like, in an interview with Nomura during Missing Link, he was saying that what's her name?
Oh, Freya.
Freya might remind you of a certain Chirithy. So shout out to Sonny Novus, who damn right almost lost his mind at the notion that Chirithys might be people. That might be the funniest stream I've ever watched in my life. But as for their Chirithys, it's such a good question. It's like, where are they? What became of them? Can they come back? Are they?
Yeah.
Were they turned it, like? I don't know. It's such a good question, because everyone's Chirithys can't just poof.
Right.
They got to come back, right? And why did Ventus's Chirithy get to like survive, quote unquote? Right?
Yeah. So Vince Chirithy was just kind of poof to the final world and was just chilling there, like Saint Peter.
Like, where's everybody else's Chirithy? Why did Ventus's Chirithy get that privilege? I feel like there's something there, right?
I think so.
I feel like there's
but I'm legit curious. I was like, but Laurium and Arena still exist, so their Chirithys, in theory, should be somewhere.
Right? Because like Enrique in the chat's like, it's because Ventus was asleep, but it's like, okay, but then like Laurium and Elrena are awake. You know, like, I don't know. It's peculiar, and it again beckons the question of like, who is Ventus? How important is he going to be? Where did he come from? Where is he going? Like, it's more and more he seems like such an anomaly. Is that it, Enrique? Is it because he was never turned into a nobody? Does getting turned into a nobody like just send your Dream Meter into the void? Or rather your Chirithy into the void, but the Chirithys became Dream Meters, it is what it is. But
Right.
I don't know. I don't know. There has to be something there. Is there anyone else who's like kicking it and they're I can't think of it. I don't know. My brain is fried. My brain is fried on it. I don't know. Any thoughts on your end?
I am thinking they'll probably go, because that does seem the most logical. They'll probably go with the nobody because they did turn into nobody, so they're Chirithys. But the only flaw in that is that the Chirithys are supposed to guard the hearts of their people. So it's like they kind of already did away with the theory that nobodies don't have hearts because they have something, if not a heart. So I don't know if they'll try to work that out because of like, they gave themselves over and turned themselves into nobodies. So therefore the Chirithys had to like the Charities do turn into nightmares when someone is taken over by darkness, so I could see that being the reason.
Ooh, but maybe that's it. Maybe Elrena and Lorium's Chirithys got turned into nightmares.
Yeah.
Because when they were nobodies, they technically had fallen to darkness. So could be something there, I suppose. Could be something there. Let's see. All right. Again, coming up on that 2-hour mark, I suppose maybe now might be a good time to wrap us up. But before we do, what do you got in the works? What have you been playing? What have you been working on? Give us the scoop before we sign off today.
All right. So, like we mentioned before, my Missing Link themes video is actually going to come out a little later today. And right now I am still playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I am hoping to get to the last 2 chapters and do a kind of a comeback stream, streaming those last 2 chapters on both YouTube and Twitch. So if not this week, definitely it's going to be a next week thing. Depending on how much longer these chapters take. I'm almost at chapter 9 right now.
They get beefy. They get beefy. The last chapter is the shortest chapter. So
okay, good to know.
Unless you get stuck on one of the boss fights, but
it's likely.
But it's the smallest. But go ahead.
Gotcha. I am basically reposting my Final Fantasy VII Rebirth streams as like Let's Plays on YouTube. I'm working on parts 3 and 4 to release this week as well. And then after Rebirth, I'm just like hyped for Stellar Blade. So I want to like really dive into that
Have you played the demo
and start
yet?
playing that. Not yet.
Yeah, I'm avoiding the demo because like I already pre-ordered it. I know I'm gonna play the game. So
yeah,
I want to go fresh because I played the demo for Rebirth and I felt like that messed up the pacing in the beginning for me. I felt like I was retreading. So Stellar Blade, I want to just go like full blown blind right through it because it looks fun. It looks fun, So, but go ahead, keep going. I rudely interrupted you.
Oh, no worries. But yeah, it's like I said, I want to play through Stellar Blade. Some more theories definitely coming down the pipeline. I've been kind of subtly, I haven't like named them the Truth of series, but my last few videos that have been like kind of deep dives, kind of the 8 to 10 to 12 minutes videos have been the Truth of type of videos that I've been doing. So I am not 100% sure if that's going to wrap up within the next month, but I do have a couple more kind of in the chamber that I want to get out on certain characters and certain themes about Kingdom Hearts. So that's probably what I'll be working on in the coming month or so. And outside of that, yeah, honestly, I'm just, as far as Kingdom Hearts news coverage and all that, I'm waiting definitely for the second beta test to complete to see if we get a global beta test. Because I do think I'm leaning towards we might get a global beta test before a full release, which would be nice. And outside of that, just kind of waiting for Summer Games Fest. That's when I think we'll really enter into Kingdom Hearts 4 promotional season.
I think so too. When is Summer Games Fest? Do we have a date?
It's on. Yeah, it's June 7th, which is actually I thought was interesting because they usually do a Thursday and Friday, but it's just on a Friday this year.
That would be smart because the only thing Square has in the pipeline after that would be the next FF14 expansion, but that's not till July. So if they did drop something like that in early June, that would give them some time to kind of command the buzz. But yeah, let's maybe wrap it up there.
Okay.
Thanks for coming back. You're
Of course.
always welcome here. I say it to everybody. I hope everybody watching this subscribes to you. If you like the kind of stuff I put out, you will like the kind of stuff she puts out. So I can't recommend you enough. Yeah, once we get some juicy news, be it Missing Link or KH4, we'll have to do this again. Maybe revisit some of these ideas. I know I'll probably lose sleep about that 7 Crowns thing tonight, in a good way. You know, who cares? I got work tomorrow. No, like they can go to hell. Just kidding. Anyway, we'll wrap it up here today. Thank you again, Em. You're always welcome. We'll do this again soon. Shout out to all you sickos and normies. Let's give special shout outs to the Master of Masters and Mo Chocolate for the super chats, as well as Larkscene Simp for the sub over on Twitch. Sickos, normies, sages, all of you, thanks for hanging out. We'll see you on the next one. How's Twitch doing? We've got enough to raid on Twitch. Okay, hang out on Twitch. We're gonna raid. Let's see. Let's raid Princess Kyora. It's been a while since we raided Kyora. We'll do that. Okay, thanks again for hanging out, everybody. We're wrapping it up here today. Em, thank you again. You're awesome. Can't wait to speak to you again on all this. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. My rambling is now done, and good night.